Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session on site planning Indian lands. I hope you're all safe and healthy. I do want to thank the NTLA board for inviting us to participate in this year's virtual conference. I have had the honor and have really enjoyed over the last several years the opportunity to share with the attendees. And I have to say, I do miss not seeing everyone in person, but hopefully a year from now, we're able to do that. I am Ken Ryan. I'm a partner at KTGY. I head up our community planning urban design studio, and I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I work with architects. I work with a variety of different consultants. In this case, we're going to share with you a case study today. I work with Shane Melbo, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Oak and Stone Development. He's joining us today. Shane, maybe you want to say a few words?
Yeah, very grateful to be a part. My name is Shane Melbo. I'm the COO, as Ken said, of Oak and Stone Development. Very grateful to be a part of this conference and this presentation, especially with Ken Ryan and KTGY, which is a great planning and architect firm. Oak and Stone is an owner's representative firm that is 100% native owned. We're a one-stop project management and development firm. We work alongside the tribe to make sure the tribal interests are met and protected and community visions are met. And we assist tribes throughout the entire project. So master planning, design, funding, RFPs, vetting and procurement of contractors, engineers, construction management, all the way through to completion. And it's been a great, the case study that we're going to go through has been great to work with Soboba as well as KTGY, and it's been a great team. So looking forward to it.
Great. So today we want to make this as meaningful as possible, and this is our agenda today. We're kind of keeping it simple. We want to talk about approach, and no matter how big or how small your site may be that you're working on, we're going to talk a little bit about process and how you implement your objectives, and we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about homework. We're going to spend some time talking about developing a vision. We're going to focus on being cost effective, and that's where we're so lucky to have Shane on board in terms of the work that we're doing for the Soboba tribe right now. And we're also going to talk about being flexible and being able to respond to things that might come up. And then we are going to focus today on our case study for the Soboba band of Luiseño Indians in the San Jacinto area of Southern California. And I guess one of the takeaways today is, let's look at short-term development, but how that fits into long-term success. So that's our agenda today. I would start off by, what is a vision? How do you develop a vision? We think it's a combination of things. It's understanding the setting and the history of a piece of property. It's certainly understanding your client's objectives. It's balanced with making sure that you're aware of financial and market considerations. We like to incorporate timeless design aesthetics, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail and show you some examples of what that means. We also, I do like to, make sure we're leveraging the land. I know of no other clients better than the Native Americans who really understand the importance of utilizing your land, not necessarily developing all of it, but utilizing the heritage of the land in a way that creates value. We want to make sure that we talk a little bit about providing options in developing a vision, as well as phasing. Perhaps now more than ever, phasing a project is important over time. And last but not least, we need to listen. We need to be Yoda once in a while. Make sure that you're listening carefully to your technical consultants, to your team, and to your client. That's a big part of developing a vision that responds to a client's objectives. I also think that developing a vision, you hear this a lot about placemaking. I think it's part science and part art. There certainly is the pragmatic side of understanding the market and infrastructure and traffic and circulation and the environmental opportunities, constraints, but it's also about touching on the human soul, of creating a social realm and an experience that people remember. I know we're doing this virtual today, but wherever you are and wherever you may be, or wherever your favorite places are, those are usually places that have some sense of memory, and sometimes has small details. I had a former partner that worked on Kierland Commons outside of Phoenix, Arizona. And this is years ago. I can't remember how many dwelling units are at that project, but I do remember that all the trash cans are shaped like barrel cactus. So sometimes also when you're working on a project, the details are some of the most important aspects about a successful project. We also know things happen. You have to be prepared. A year ago, you know, if someone had told us there was going to be a worldwide pandemic that would change everything for a while and we'd all be wearing masks, you know, we all would say you're crazy. You need to be able to be prepared and recognize that things do happen. And when you've got a vision in place that allows for a certain amount of flexibility, it allows you to continue to move forward in a way that adds value. So up front, early on, do your homework, look at existing conditions, think about not just a site, but also how that fits from a physicality perspective and a market perspective, locally, sub-regionally, and regionally. Absolutely understand the site itself. Oftentimes there's work that's been done before. It doesn't mean you have to adopt all of that universally, but take advantage of work that's been done before that can help save costs and save time. And that allows you then to make informed decision and recommendations on what type of technical expertise and how much you really need in order to implement those objectives of the client. We worked very early on with the Colespal tribe up in Washington. This is a case study that shows how important sort of sub-regional and regional influences are. The Colespals have a beautiful urban hotel and casino in the Spokane area, but as you can see on this graphic, most of their land holdings are in absolutely gorgeous natural setting, you know, a couple hours north of Spokane. And the tribe moved forward with a casino that reflected that, that's more organic in its condition and open to the natural environment. I don't know whether this has been implemented or not, but I know they had a vision to do a rail line from Spokane to the second casino, two different experiences. It reminded me of, if any of you who are listening are golfers, there's an old golf adage that, you know, when does the golf experience start? Is it when you get on the driving range or the first tee? And the message on it, no, not really. It's when the alarm clock goes off and you start putting your shoes on at home. You know, the experience is part of the journey is just as important as the destination. So that's something to keep in mind also, first impressions in your arrival sequence. We had the honor of working for the Agua Calientes for their resort master plan. This is 120 acres next to the 10 freeway near Palm Springs, California. And this is just, also today we're going to share with you different techniques, different graphics, some quick and some more detailed about how to illustrate important considerations, in this case, opportunities, constraints. The casino, which is now built in this area, we had some major influences, these yellow arrows that you see, even though if you went out and look at this site, it's sort of the desert area, magnificent views of the San Bernardino Mountains to the east, and to the west, the San Jacintos and the Santa Rosas to the south. It's windy out here, so we wanted to make sure when we were thinking about site planning, you were taking the wind conditions into consideration. Certainly access was important off the freeway, but also railroad noise and freeway noise all needed to be taken into consideration relative to the hotel and casino that's built now in this location. Equally important to those design and opportunity constraints is think about demographics and geographic locations such as the Colespal. Utilize that data in a way that allows you to make intelligent short-term and long-term recommendations. And it's important to think about who you're planning for. Who are your end users and who are they going to be? What are their wants and their needs and their preferences? So that's important to take into consideration as well, not just your own internal personal beliefs about what should occur, but who you're designing the project for. From a design perspective, we do like to incorporate, no matter how big or small your project is, a sort of sense of containment. Think about diversity of human activity, of quiet spaces, of more busy areas, of a historic continuity. It doesn't have to be bold. Sometimes that's appropriate, but if you get subtle ways to tap into, you know, what's been there before. I think Native American lands offer perhaps the most great opportunity to do that. Think about human scale and locational considerations. Those are all fundamental design criteria that adds to value in your projects. I'll give you one example. We worked on a project up in the San Fernando Valley area called Porter Ranch Town Center. When we first started evaluating that property, it was in an area that had a lot of wildlife. Years ago, this is me, the old baby boomer guy, but there were movies that were made there with Lucille Ball and others. And we weren't necessarily going to have pictures of Lucille Ball in the town center, but there was, you know, some history of time gone by in this area. It also had very strong landforms and vegetation So what that developed into our recommendations was a color palette that felt like it was connected, you see it here down below, to the place, and a use of materials, whether that was leather or stone or water or fire, that also related to the authenticity of the site itself. So at the end of the day, this is a residential and a retail project. We used those colors and materials, and then one of the big ideas for this project was to do a new building that looked old, that looked like it had been there for a very long time. That's actually the community center that got built as part of the project. Did the same thing for the Platte River. This is up outside of Casper, Wyoming. Most people today think of it as the area where all the oil refinery took place. You see these old pictures that were here. But the strength of this project is the fact that it's on the river, the Platte River, in this location. So as we started to make suggestions for urban design features, just about every one of those had some connection to the water, or maybe both. And in this case, what if you had an art in public places with barrels that had water coming out of it? I actually love this picture up here. This is sort of a wildlife, art in public places, but a deer crossing gets incorporated. So those creative ideas also should connect to the place. We like to use some fairly simple graphics that, whether this is the Platte River project, whether it's golf course or retail or residential or hotel, every project, as you start moving forward with a small implementation of this plan, should have some connection to the river, the physical and visual connections. And this diagram might be hard to understand. So what do you really mean? Well, we've done some renderings to show that. So when the retail center moves forward, you've got an edge condition next to that river that celebrates it. We worked a couple of years ago for the Morongos, who have several thousand acres. They have the benefit of a 10 freeway right here with a gazillion cars on it, but nonetheless, large land holding north of the 10 freeway. We started to develop some recommendations for uses, but also big picture, even relating to land that's not theirs. On the south, the county of Riverside's moving forward with residential uses. How can we plan for the Morongos to take advantage of what's going to be developed next door down the road? That translated to a master plan that really, for us, and this is also based on some market input as well as all the other areas of technical expertise, but develop a resort district where this is an existing casino, very successful, the Morongos have right now, but a framework plan, a vision, if you will, for future resort uses to be designed and developed around that casino. So RV park and some flexible spaces that would allow for hotel or other uses that would complement the resort itself. And then further to the east, don't compete with that, complement it, a travel center and logistics and other uses that made sense perhaps further to the east. This, we also developed a little bit further. You see down in the corner here, this is the existing casino. Allow for the appropriate area for a future expansion, this roadway, this vision, this framework that would allow for a hotel or RV park to be included in the future as part of their objectives. One last thing I'll show you on here too is big picture. As the project gets developed over time, our recommendation was one new access. Right now, the access is here. It offers great access to the casino and other uses, but also even access to uses that are not part of the tribe's holdings. We made a recommendation that over time, as these other areas get developed, have a framework in place. And this next rendering I'm going to share with you is looking back towards the casino, that you would have a strong resort entry into the project looking back to the west. That's what this illustrates. It doesn't have to be detailed architecture, but allow for people to understand what that vision might be. Okay, you might be asking now, yeah, but what if all I want to do is build a convenience store or a gas station? That master plan's great, but I need to move forward with the tribe's priority or a community center, whatever that may be right now that's your focus. We think the approach is the same. The big question is, and this is the fun part about our business and working with Shane and other tech, is how much is enough? You don't have to do all the same amount for each one of these. So it takes that homework up front to understand this is what we probably should do in order to help make the tribe make informed decisions. I think there are 4 things to remember relative to that. One, be relevant to the site. This picture on the right here is our master plan we did in the city of Brea. It's called the Hartley Center. And this beautiful plaza that you see here was actually a great lawn, and everyone knew that the Hartley Center was going to get redeveloped. It was the old place where Unocal studied deep sea oil exploration, et cetera, but that corner was very special. So, you know, as part of the development for retail and residential uses, et cetera, we created a public space there. It's a plaza that the retail looks onto. So the relevance here is the corner is still important. This is actually an art and public places piece that is sort of an abstract, you probably have to have an adult beverage or two, but this is an abstract oil derrick. They kind of move up and down when the wind blows. The second is to be timeless. In our business, our designers and planners, we think we've got the greatest new idea. Many of those ideas, if you go back to sort of timeless planning principles, are just that. They're timeless planning principles. So do things that perhaps you know are going to last over time. Think about visual and social and physical connections. This is a shot of our Platte River project again, where you are connected to the river no matter what. And you got to use the Gumby philosophy, be flexible. And Shane's going to talk about that. He's done a great job of guiding us under crazy times with our Soboba project to make sure the vision gets implemented, but be able to respond. I also think, you know, so be thoughtful, but we also know time is money. And so it reminds me of two of my favorite quotes from Mario Andretti, actually, of all people, who said, if things feel like they're under control, then you're not going fast enough. That's a race car driver for you, right? And he also said, if you don't come back to the pits every once in a while with just holding the steering wheel, then maybe you're not trying hard enough. You know, it's like you take a shot. You know, if you've got a master plan and a vision plan in place, then you can move forward and you can make adjustments, and you're going to stumble once in a while, but it doesn't mean that the vision gets lost. So the second part of our presentation today, we really wanted to focus on, that's the big picture and the approach, and wanted to focus on, we're so honored to be working for the Soboba band, the Luiseño Indians in San Jacinto, specifically working for the Soboba Economic Development Corporation under Becky Flores' leadership. We were asked to take a look at this, what we think in Southern California is kind of a hidden secret. The San Jacinto area is emerging largely because of the tribe's development to be one of the coolest places to go. But when you first look at the site, and the hotel's off in the distance here, it's beautiful. There's the San Jacinto River and Poppin and Indian Creeks, the San Jacinto Mountains in the distance. The setting is quite gorgeous. And back to my earlier comments about the arrival, this picture on the right up here, this is not the site itself, the site's off in the distance, but on the 60 freeway, you turn and get off, you have a sense of arrival and destination when you come to the tribe's property. So those existing conditions and that experience we think are very important. When you get to the site that we were asked to look at, we're just to the right. This is the tribe's new hotel and casino. The tribe has a rich history of agrarian use, and you can see, and water, and you can see that was celebrated in their work that they did for their hotel and their casino. Our site is just to the right of that. Also nearby is a recent fire station that's built that had some consideration on our part about maybe direction for architecture. You can tell the tribe thinks and cares about special places. Some of those details that I mentioned, this is actually inside the casino, their Red Tree bar area. We wanted to start to think about that, incorporate that into the master plan. The setting's beautiful with the mountains behind us. This is our site right now. Maybe it doesn't look like much, but with Shane and our work, we're gonna turn that into something special. We looked at it initially. This is the site itself. It was down low, and Shane will talk about this in a moment too. Grading became very important about how we lift up the site and do that in a smart way. And there had been some work on it in the past that helped inform what we were asked to look at. We were hired to look at this 19 acres right here. The casino and the hotels off to the left, the community facility area for the tribe, the fire station's built here. We actually have an adjacent RV park immediately to the south, but it's an important corner. People arriving to the casino and to the hotel come from Lake Park Drive, and they come from Soboba arriving at this location. And Soboba Road, as it continues to the east, this is the gateway to the tribe's land holdings to the east. So a very important piece of property. And we were asked to look at it to see if we could move forward with some retail uses on this site that would complement everything else that the tribe had been working on. Oh, one thing I should mention, we were also given a very short time frame to come up with a concept. And so we hope to share this with you today too. Knowing that we did not have a long time, we used several different techniques in order to gain consensus. And I know that probably most of you listening, you don't have any tribal politics at all. I think most of the attendees are staff members, and every session I've gone to, you say you never have any tribal politics. If we were live, I think I'd hear some chuckles right now. We know that there are different opinions and you need to work to gain consensus. In this case, we did multiple techniques. We had a all-day design charrette where we invited different representatives of the tribe, whether the casino side or tribal council members or the economic development board that we worked with. We did some verbal discussions. Jeff Graney, my design director, actually developed this board of, what do we think about opportunities in land use and concerns. We did get together that first day, and actually I asked everyone before we even talked, write down on a piece of paper the one thing that you would want to take away. You don't even have to put your name on it. The one thing you would want to take away is something that would be important to the property. We used a number of other techniques. We had images for streetscapes, for entry monumentation. Actually, this image here was something that a majority of the tribe really loved. Creative landscape elements. And this is a suggestion for those of you listening too. We just had green dots and red dots. Don't have to put your name to it. Just go up, put green dots on the images you like, red dots on the images that you don't care for. We did the same thing for landscape. Should it be formal? Should it be organic? What images do you like? It helped shape direction for the plan. We did the same thing for architecture. Universally, the Sobobas, because of the setting and perhaps maybe with the fire station that got built, they like the heavy timber, this look. And so it helped shape direction for us, as well as stone, the use of some stone material. We also use the technique, and for those of you that have participated in the past in our workshops for NTLA, I love to do this. We use the turning point technologies where you can vote in silent and answer questions. And we did that also with the tribe. And universally, you can see this is just one of those questions that we have, but you can see very, very strong. We want to connect to the setting. It was important for this tribe at this location to connect to the setting. So as a result of all of that, in a fairly condensed matter, we had 3 design solutions that we developed. I'm not going to dwell on all of those 3 and pros and cons to each of those for the overall master plan itself. Tabulated that, statistics, talked about that. We had several different options that responded to what we heard on the architecture. Ultimately, the sort of heavy timber craftsman is what the tribe selected. We then shared that with the overall shareholders for the tribe and got their input on that as well. And option 1 was selected very strongly. And so it was helpful to us as designers about the direction that the tribe wanted to pursue. So this was the option 1 that we selected to move forward with, a gateway opportunity. In this case, in this area, a convenience store and gas station and car wash. We had a full team on board helping us with this project. Boyd Martin from a marketing perspective, C2, our landscape architect, ERSC, our project civil engineer, John Kane doing traffic, W. O'Neill doing the general contracting. My partners, David Obitz, initial architecture, and Michael Seng, our retail architect. We had a team pulled together that told us that, if you do this correctly, over time, retail could occur here, maybe not day 1. And then along that earthquake fault, the Soboba tribe, the children and youth and families are very important to the tribe. And so we came up with some recommendations in this area here in the earthquake fault that you can't build on, to come up with perhaps an opportunity for an area for kids and for, farmers market, and incorporate water. They have an agrarian history, and make sure that as we move forward, this one development opportunity that's outside of the earthquake fault, maybe we could have a community building located here and a roadway alignment that connects to the fire station, et cetera. It doesn't mean that the project's going to get built, and Shane will talk about this exactly like this, but as long as that overall vision is in place, a gateway opportunity coming into the tribal holdings, entry monumentation, complement what's going on across the street, that's the vision that we developed, utilizing great input from the tribe in terms of hardscape and softscape, et cetera. This was the conceptual architecture, and you'll see the real architecture is getting ready. Again, construction responds to that. Did an overall rendering that showed how that could get developed over time to give everybody a feel about what it is that we were moving forward with. This is the phase 1 area that we're going to talk about in a moment. And before we got into phase one, and before I have Shane kind of jump in and talk a little bit about how he's been guiding us on this, we did want to do enough work. This was a very important, it's a gateway piece of property that as we move forward with engineering and grading and architecture phase one, that we made sure that over time, when the tribe was ready to move forward with this area, that it actually reflected in infrastructure opportunities and could get built. So not engineering drawings, but we did some concepts to show where access should take place and where the building might be able to be located and where those uses that the tribe shared with us that they'd like to have here could occur. And knowing then when you move forward with phase one, that later that could get implemented in more detail. So with all of that as our background concept work, this is our current, well, it's even not our current site plan. I'll let Shane talk about that. This is where we started to move forward with phase one, which included when we start, this is pre-COVID, when we started off with our convenience store, a support retail building, car wash, gas station fueling area, RV fueling area, and a future retail site. And maybe Shane, that's probably a good time for me to maybe turn it over to you to talk about an approach for how we move forward with the project.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ken. First, I just want to say, the master planning process that was done and, in inviting the tribe and working with the tribe to get them so involved and critically involved in the decision-making process, to get their vision on paper was fantastic. We have the same values over here at Oak and Stone, and it really, with their assistance, came up with a great plan here and a great vision that the tribe owns, throughout that process. So KTGY did a fantastic job, and so did the tribe. They did a fantastic job as well. But now that vision has been established, and decided on by the tribe, Oak and Stone now has to assist the tribe in managing the implementation of that vision, and fine tuning it. So to do that, we utilize resources to, start generating further in-depth feasibilities related to business plans, operational costs, financing documents. We also work with BIA loan guarantee programs. You have to do construction estimating, scheduling, and coordination of all these different items for your schedule to start getting this thing implemented. And, it further helps fine tune the program that has already been established by the tribe. And the program is the vision, what gets built, what goes into this property. It fine tunes, the site. It fine tunes units for fuel, pumps, square footages of buildings, what products and services, on a smaller scale would drive economic development within the things that the market study that KTGY did already, established. It gets fine tuned. And then, once it gets ready to open, getting job fairs for tribal members to operate the facilities is important too. Then you start getting into the regulatory process. We have to manage environmental and cultural measures, EPA, Fish and Wildlife, permitting, land issues, land development, geotechnical, infrastructure needs, et cetera. All this stuff needs to be coordinated to implement this vision, and it's a lot of work. And we lean heavily on KTGY and all the design, the engineers, the RSC, the traffic consultants under KTGY, and we put together a schedule and a budget for all these different services that have to take place so that this project can happen. And also, all these things really have a big impact on the budget and the schedule. So you put all these things together, and at the end of the day, whether your preset budget, it works with that or not, you can provide information for the tribe to make educated decisions, without compromising the vision. KTGY, like I said, great job involving the tribe. We have the same values, and we also work, on a project like this to involve tribes to actually be employed in the construction. We involve the public works departments of the tribes, and even tribal-owned subcontractors get involved in this project. And that's kind of just the overall process of implementing it. And as we get into the case study, you'll see that, as these business plans are done and all that work is done, you're set with a schedule and a budget. And we have to figure out a way with KTGY and the tribe, of course, making decisions, how to implement that vision while also making our budget and our schedule. And, we can get into the case study, I guess, at this point, Ken.
Yeah, I probably should say too, one thing that really irritated me is that Shane's the guy that herds all these cats and he doesn't have any gray hair yet. And I just, I don't know how he does it. But, the COVID-19 hit and it had a major impact because as all of you listening know, the casino was shut down for a while. And so maybe the revenue stream that we had all planned on, was changing. We were really pleased with the thoughtful, we think we armed the tribe with the ability to make informed decisions, and they did. The direction, this was what we were going to go forward and build. And rather than to value engineer all of it, we were at, that's always part of the process to really look at the concepts. There are ways to save money, but don't lose the vision. The tribe made, I thought, a really fundamental, important decision was let's not compromise the design, but maybe we hold off. Instead of this being phase one, maybe this is phase 1A. Let's do the convenience store and do the gas station. And then phase 1B, when things stabilize, will be the car wash and the additional retail uses. And so that was the direction that the tribe gave us to move forward with on this plan. And we looked at that from we'll show you in our case study about how we responded to it. One other comment I wanted to make here too is early on, because this earthquake fault was up here, this roadway intersection here was really important to line up with the casino, but we wanted to shift the road a little bit more to the north. It's in an earthquake fault anyway, you can't build in there, but allow for a development parcel here that made more sense, that responded to our market folks, that said, here's X number of square footage you could do over time. So we have a better development parcel here. That, Shane, that leads to kind of some direction on the grading that became very important. You want to talk about this?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Ken. It was a great point about phasing. When you look at your budget and you look at, obviously we utilize the resources and do estimating ourselves, and we look at the market, we bid out the entire project of phase one, and we look at the car wash and the future development and what we can or cannot do. And like Ken said, instead of taking out things that would compromise the tribe's required vision, we were able to see how it would make sense to reduce costs for the first phase, to take out the car wash, and build that later, install the infrastructure for it so that it could be plugged in and play it right away, and the future retail, and we could just do the C-store right away. And then also take, those things and back them against the business plan. How did that affect revenue if the car wash wasn't involved? How did that affect traffic to the C-store if the car wash wasn't involved? And all these different things. And we were able to gather that data and also take a look how the site looked with KTGY to make sure it didn't compromise the vision. And we were able to actually make a decision, okay, phase one would be these items and phase two would be these items. So it was a great effort. And then, existing conditions like you see here, this project required a large civil and land development. So, we had to import a lot of dirt on this project, almost 200,000 cubic yards of dirt. Essentially, you're importing an island. That's an existing land development condition that really impacts your schedule and your budget. Obviously, it takes a long time, and the cost to import dirt, the trucking operation, the geotechnical operation, and the logistical operation of that is large. It's a very large civil land development. So working with KTGY and ERSC, we were able to come up with a grading plan for phase one that would achieve phase one without doing the full import throughout the whole site. So if you look at the different pinpoints of these green arrows throughout, we were able to work with the designers to come up with a fill operation where we could leave some areas low, but still get exactly what we needed, which was to raise that C-store to the street level and the gas station to the street level for traffic coming out of the casino and coming up that street. So it was, and we also wanted to make sure, that area to the north, which is future, not even in phase one, but the tribe really cares about it, that we graded appropriately for that future implementation as well. And so also then, what we have to do is, when we want to fill the rest of the areas we couldn't do in phase one, we coordinated a stockpile operation, and all these different costs. We didn't want to stockpile dirt, in an area that, we'd have to over-X. So all these different things, we put together all these different options and gather the data. We provide it to the tribe, and the tribe can, with the help of the architect, can make a decision on what to do in phase one. And they made a good decision here.
Yeah. It's complicated. I'd say probably one of the big takeaways is have someone like Shane that's a great liaison, that you've got, you got to have communication amongst all the team members, because we all have different perspectives, whether that's the design or engineering or landscape, et cetera. And when there's good coordination and communication, you come up with a compromise that doesn't compromise the vision, but achieves the goal. So that's kind of where we're at with this.
Yeah, and another thing about kind of the civil land development of this project, that really drove the decision for the first phases, kind of the phasing process, where we didn't do certain large items because the import operation cost a lot. There's a master storm drain system coming right through here. Underneath this entire site is a very large concrete underground storm drain system. Yeah. And that impacts you from the mountain, all the stormwater from the mountain, the clinic, the fire station, other developments, basically up this entire area was coming through through the site phase 1 and going through. And it was very important that was done when it was, and that, we got everybody together and got that done in phase 1. Otherwise, that storm drain water would have had nowhere to go unless you ripped apart the entire site. So we were able to, all together, work together with the engineers and KTGY and say, look, these are some bullets you may have to bite. Here's your option if you don't do it. Here's your option if you do. And the tribe made a good decision. The EDC made a good decision to move forward with that stuff for their benefit and the tribes.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it. That's a big point for those of you that maybe have some infrastructure going on. It's worth having a vision in place. We were able to accommodate the drainage, but bring it through the roadway and come through down here, and don't compromise the overall vision. Overall, no one else will know, but we do. It's realigned in a different location that actually works for everybody. Boy, we could spend the whole session talking about traffic. I guess the short version on this, it was very important to make sure that what we were doing, honored, the hotel and the casino circulation, but also provided for good access, as Shane indicated, to the C-store, but also for future planning to the east, where the fire station is, for other uses that'll come later. We needed to widen the roadway and look at turning movements. A little bit more complicated than normal, because this particular roadway is also in the city of San Jacinto's jurisdiction. So we needed to sort of plan what we wanted to do, but also convince the city engineers that what we were doing made sense. And so we've been moving forward with that as well, as part of the project. What do you want to say anything else about this graphic, Shane, right now? But it's just oversimplified about 6 months worth of work, probably.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just, generally speaking, this is another very large item that impacts the phasing of the project and the decisions made as to what goes in to phase 1 project. What you have, there's no, right now at this intersection, there was no way for people leaving the casino to get to the convenience store and the gas station at that intersection. So a 4-way intersection had to be made, and you were able to weigh the costs, through bidding and getting actual costs and the business plan of what the impacts would be to not do that 4-way intersection, and what the cost savings would be, and what the impacts would be, vice versa. And the impacts to do the intersection and the road work, that was much better than not doing it, even though you had to sacrifice maybe something to phase 2, because getting that infrastructure and those items done as established by KTGY's traffic, study, we were able to make good decisions there.
Same's true with the architecture. This is our C-store that we're moving forward with now, and it reflects those fundamental recommendations that the EDC was looking for in terms of a barrel roof, exposed timber, the use of stone. Our first blush of this, we've gone through some additional versions of it to reduce the roof height and reduce the amount of stone to respond to the cost, but no one else will know the difference. And so we've made some changes in working with Shane and his group to make sure that it was cost effective as well. I will say too, I think it's one thing to look at a land plan. We actually, we're so blessed these days with computer graphics that are fairly easy to generate. I think the pictures are worth 1,000 words. So we wanted to not only see what it looks like, this is, you know, inside the site from the gas station area, but this, you know, how does the corner look in terms of the drive-through, and what materials should we utilize, and are there ways to make sure that the vision gets implemented on this important corner, but also to be smart in terms of cost. One thing I will point out, this is a wave of the future right now. This is a convenience store drive-through, but rather than just a window to hand drinks back and forth, we actually have a door that's been incorporated, so you could walk and open someone's back seat and put in groceries in the back seat. Okay. We prepared, you know, this is for the second retail site. We did the elevations for that. We did the elevations for the car wash. None of these, it's not wasted effort. When the tribe's ready to move forward with the car wash, we have basically the color palette and the materials and the vision identified for how those uses should move forward. We've done daytime and nighttime. Is something also keep in mind. You know, places have lighting is important. So how does it read and how does it feel at nighttime also in terms of, you know, creating place and safety and security. I wanted to share, this is also an option. This the C-store on the left is what's moving forward. We're getting ready to start construction on that. We've gone through schematics and CDs and getting ready to build it. But the EDC decided to hold off on the additional retail site. So what do you do with that site in the interim? There are options. You can hydroseed it and put minimum landscaping so it looks okay. We actually also came up with an idea for outdoor space, and it came up with a concept that with fairly nominal expenditure, you know, some shade structures, a place where there might be some music. You could buy a sandwich and be outside. Maybe there's a food truck opportunity. We've done this in a couple of other places. These images down below are one of my other clients, of Brewery X. This was actually a parking lot. These images down below before COVID hit, they got shut down inside. Can we have people get together outside that are far enough away where you don't have to wear masks even? And so there are also temporary uses. In the case of Brewery X, they actually want to keep it forever now, but could you use in the interim, rather than just a vacant lot, could you use that space next to the C-store for other purposes? So it's an option. We also did the same thing with our landscape architect, C2 Collaborative West. Was the landscape architect, did a full landscape plan for what was originally the phase 1 area. We've now broken that down to more of a phase 1A and a phase 1B. So we asked them to do the same thing. And this is their, you know, let's landscape the corner and take care of the convenience store and the fueling station and do minimal landscaping here. It's not dirt, but we'll use, you know, hydroseed and flowers. So it's beautiful, but allows for the long-term development to take place at a later time, not compromising the vision overall. And we did the same thing working with Shane's group on the plant palette. What are the most important plants that need to be a certain size? Can we reduce that in certain areas? And so that's gone through a full vetting also in terms of implementing the vision, but also being cost effective. Our main entry was very important to the tribe. Those early elements, even in our early workshop, this gateway element was something that was important as the overall site gets developed over time. And we developed, this is the Lake Park Drive, casinos to the east. This is our main entry coming in to not just the convenience store, but future development over time. And we came up with 3 different concepts. This is our gateway across the street. This first concept really was a nod to the tribe's agrarian history. And so maybe there's on this corner, you know, a rusted steel spillway and perhaps a grove type planting to reflect the agrarian history of the tribe. Our second option was something more natural, a natural stream. And we did some preliminary costing on all of these. This one's a little bit more expensive. We did a third option that perhaps there's a fountain and more of an oasis concept. Through all of that discussion, the tribe selected the first one, which was more agrarian in its character. So we developed that. This is sort of, you know, the concept development. We developed that further with sections. And in this case also, are there ways to maybe make the wall a little smaller? These are holding zones for the nomenclature for the village overall, but develop sections so you can understand scale with people or cars driving by. How would that corner monument feel and look? We also designed it to also be able to be phased over time. Plumb this with water, but phase one, the entry monument could be built like this, and then phase two, you can add the water later as revenues support that design. So I think one of our messages today also is there's the ability to phase small design elements as well to allow them to occur over time. The same is true with our gateway. This is that important gateway element, but can we move forward with the project now and do this later as the project develops? The answer is absolutely yes. And we developed a series of signage, and materials and what that would look like when it gets built. With C2, we developed an overall master signage concept for the overall site itself with community monumentation, retail signage, the gas price signs, and with directional signs. And then Shane asked us to look at what do we need to do for phase one? And we pared that down to the monument, retail, and directional signage. And we've even gone a step further in terms of moving forward with our convenience store and fueling station. Where should we go and where should the gas pricing signs be located? And so we've been working really closely with the team and the EDC just recently selected, let's move forward with this gas station, gas pricing sign that has the materials, and where should that go and where could it go that fits into the bigger picture. So we did some quick sketches about coming in the entry road to where that could be located. We did some visuals exiting the casino. One of the things that we were really pleased with by elevating the site and having a grading concept that Shane had mentioned earlier of lifting this corner up, we know that the striking architecture for the convenience store will in effect also be a sign. You'll be able to brand this building at this location and then have an appropriate gas pricing sign at 2 locations. And this last exhibit, you don't have to redo every exhibit. You can talk it through when you visualize. So we're coming north on Lake Park here. This is our future directional sign. We're probably not going to do that right now. But that gas pricing sign will be located down further in this location to let everyone know there's a gas station convenience store, let everyone know that the vision is a strong one. There's some stone material associated with it. And these directionals and other signs can go in later and also be phased. So we've taken the same sort of strategy with our landscape architect. Now, I know in the past, there has been quite a bit of really great questions. I think a couple of years ago, someone asked me, how much would you charge me to do a community center in the middle of our presentation? Both Shane and I want to thank you so much for hopefully listening to our session. And we're here to answer any questions and respond to anything you want to talk about relative to the process.